Hi, this is Mr. Wetz, and today we're doing a tutorial video on order of operations. This, of course, is from mathdrills.com. They have amazing math resources, so be sure to check them out in the link in the description below. For this exercise, we are going to be using order of operations to correctly answer these integer operation problems. So when we're doing order of operations, we need to keep in mind the order of operations, which is parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Keep in mind that multiplication, division go together, so you're going to go left to right on those. In addition, subtraction, the same thing. So each one of these has parentheses, so we know we're going to have parentheses, and that's going to come first. None of these have exponents, so we don't actually need to worry about that. And then once we see multiplication, we're going to go left to right on that, and then left to right on addition, subtraction. If you don't know integer operations well, that means adding and subtracting, multiplying, dividing positive and negative numbers, then make sure to check out some of my other videos on that. First, I'm going to kind of assume that you know that a little bit, but we're going to go ahead and jump right into the first problem here. And what I like to do is, as I'm doing these types of simplification problems, I like to make this little funnel because I know I'm going to be going from complex to less complex. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to first identify parentheses, right? I said parentheses at first, but look, there's parentheses all over the place. I know that can be super confusing to students. They're like, well, I see parentheses here, here, here. I see one right there. I see one right there. How do I know which one to start with? You want to think of parentheses as like a house. So if we have like a house of parentheses, we want to start at the innermost room. So if we have multiple sets of parentheses, we want to start at the innermost parenthesis. Looking at this one, if we see multiple parentheses, which we do, we're going to look for the ones that are the most inner. Now, one thing you'll know is anytime you see a negative number, a lot of times they'll be put in parentheses just as a separation mechanism. So look here, there's a plus and negative 9. Well, technically, if I'm looking here, this negative 9 is the innermost parenthesis, but there's nothing to do with it. There's no operation needed to take place, so I'm just going to move on. Same thing with this negative 7, same thing with the negative 8. It's just to separate the negative sign. So really what we can do is we can take care of this parenthesis right here, and that's negative 7 plus negative 9 minus 8. When I'm dealing with negative numbers, what I like to do is I like to think of them as either the negative team or the positive team. So I have a negative 7, I have a negative 9, and I know a lot of students will like to think, oh, that's subtracting a positive 8. I don't. What I do is I just count it as a negative 8. So in total, I have negative 7, negative 9, negative 8. All three of those numbers together. Since I know they're all negative, they're going to get bigger together. They're going to become more negative. They're going to get stronger. Those are words I like to use. So I have negative 16 because I did negative 7 and negative 9. That gives negative 16. And then I subtract 8 from that, and I get negative 24. Now, what I need to do is I need to copy down this other stuff each time. So as I'm doing this, I'm copying down this negative 8 because I haven't done anything with that negative 8 yet each time. This is the most foreign thing for students, that we're going to go line by line and we're just going to rewrite it, solving one thing at a time. Not really solving, but simplifying one thing at a time. You saw that we simplified this, then we simplified this, and notice how it's going from complex to more simple. So my final step is negative 24 divided by negative 8. If I really wanted to, I could write it like this. This is not necessary. And so I'm going to apply my division rules for integers. And that states that if we have a negative divided by negative, it's going to be a positive. I don't need that plus sign, but I'm just writing there to kind of show you what I'm doing. And then I have 24 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 24? That's 3 times. So positive 3 is my answer, and I'm done. See how I went from this funnel effect here? And that's the whole point of order of operations. Let's move on to the next one. So again, I'm starting off with parentheses. Okay, and over here, you could see that I really need to worry about multiplication division because it just came up naturally. All I had to do is handle the parentheses, and then it led me to the next thing. It might happen again here. Let's take a look. So I'm looking at, this is just a negative 5. That's separating it. I don't really need to worry about that. And then here I have negative 3 minus a negative 8 plus 4. What I want to do first actually is change this to a positive. Anytime you see minus a negative, you want to change that to a plus sign. Because when you take away a negative, really what you're doing is you're adding it. So I can rewrite this. I'm just going to rewrite everything. I'm not going to put the parenthesis, and I'll make this a dot instead. It's my preferred choice. I'm going to get rid of that parenthesis just because I think it's going to make it more simple for us to look at. I'm making that plus 8. I'll make that plus 8 because I don't want to do plus a negative 8. A lot of students make that mistake. That's not what it is. Okay, moving on. So I'm looking at the parenthesis here. I'm going to do negative 3 plus 8. That gives me 5. And we'll write plus 4. And I still have my parenthesis. I changed color just for emphasis. So I have negative 5 times 5 plus 4. One thing I forgot to say too is a lot of students will do, I need to do negative 5 times 5, left to right. No, do not move left to right. We are going one thing at a time, and the first thing we're going with is the parentheses, okay? So now I have 9 here. 5 plus 4 is 9, okay? So I have 9. And then I multiply this by negative 5. So my final step is going to be negative 45. And I actually forgot this necessary thing, which is make my funnel to start. Whoops, that one slid. And there we go. There's my next answer. Let's look for another one here that has, here's one that has 2 sets of parentheses. So honestly, it doesn't matter which parenthesis we start with. We can actually do one at a time. So I'm just going to start with the one on the left. I have negative 8 plus 2. These are on different teams. This guy is negative. This guy is positive. So really what happens here is the negative is going to win, and this is going to be negative 6. So I have negative 6 in that parenthesis. Over here on the right, I'm going to move over here. I have 5 divided by negative 5. A positive divided by negative is going to be a negative, and 5 goes into 5 one time, so that's my answer. And I need to just copy down what's left. So now I have a negative 6 times a negative 1. A negative times a negative is equal to a positive, and there's my answer. Okay, so those are, again, I'm using some integer rules here, so you may be familiar with them. I would encourage you to check out my videos or check out your notes from class, but you really want to know your multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting integers operations first before moving on to something like this. Last one. We're going to change this to a plus sign first. Anytime you see minus, minus, I think that's the last one. Here's another one right here. Change that to plus. Change that to plus. Anytime you see that, you want to get rid of it right away. So I have, this is my innermost parenthesis. Yep, and actually it doesn't really matter. It just, I can go left to right here because this is all one big parenthesis, and then that just is negative 8. But really, it's plus 8 because I was subtracting a negative 8. And that, that is 14 plus 10 times 3. This is 24 when I add those together. Forgot my funnel. You can always add this later, but it's good to know that a good template to work with. Times 3. And now I have to do 24 times 3. That gives me 2. 3 times 2 is 6. Add 1, 72. 72 is my answer. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to check out Math Drills. They have tons of great resources and worksheets. I look forward to seeing you next time right here on West Explains Best.